And we're joined now by North Country Assemblyman Billy Jones, who represents the 115th District, covering Clinton and Franklin counties. Welcome to you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
I want to ask you right off the top, given what we witnessed just a day ago, we're taping on Thursday, your thoughts on what we saw unfold yesterday with several hundred protesters turned rioters who stormed and seized the U.S. Capitol.
It was disgraceful. Violence is never the answer, no matter who you supported or voted for. In this past election, democracy must win, and it was just simply un-American and a disgrace and a stain on our country.
Governor Cuomo will give his State of the State address this year virtually, coming up on Monday. Much of it we expect to focus on the coronavirus pandemic, which I guess is no surprise given how much it's had an impact on the state and so many people this year. The COVID vaccines are beginning to arrive and be administered. A few delays, but are the states and the feds getting it worked out, and are they getting to the people who need them?
Not yet. And, we have to be better at this rolling out, this distribution. We have circumstances in my office where we've had questions about this, who gets the vaccine, who doesn't. There are certain areas where the larger pharmacies are taking care of the nursing homes, and then the hospitals are getting a distribution from the state. So it's been very confusing to people at times. We need to get together, federal, state government, have a better rollout of this so we can get the most people vaccinated at the quickest times.
Healthcare workers are priority number one. They seem to be getting their shots. The focus now on some of the nursing homes, on residents and staff. Certainly.
We need to get the healthcare workers, frontline workers, essential workers. Also, we need to get our most vulnerable population. That's the 65 to older populations, whether they're in nursing homes or not. And we need to, that's why I'm saying we need to coordinate better with this. Federal government, state government, we need to get on the same page. We need to get a better rollout of this so we can get these vaccinations out. Everybody talks about, I want to return to normal, or what that normal is going to be. That's why we need to get this rollout and done, and to the people that need it the most.
Have you and other lawmakers been vaccinated?
Absolutely not.
You haven't?
I have not. I can't speak for any of my colleagues. I wouldn't know. I'm waiting my turn, so to speak, and I just feel that those vaccinations should be used for our healthcare workers, our frontline workers, people that are essential workers, our most vulnerable population. I'll take all the safety precautions. In the meantime, I'll wait my turn.
Business has kept flowing across the northern border, but the border crossings have been closed to non-essential traffic for 10 months now. Give us your assessment of how much economically this has hurt the region.
No doubt. I mean, we depend so much on our friends and neighbors to the north coming here in our local retail shops, our campsites, our marinas. Anything, our hotels, anything that we have here, we depend so much on them, helping our economy out. I can just give you a few examples. This spring, this summer, some of our local marinas, golf courses, campsites, some were down 70 to 80% of their usual business. That just gives you, a snapshot of how our economy is suffering without our friends and neighbors to the north.
Businesses have been forced to shut down, reduce their hours, implement mask and social distancing requirements. There have been critics, especially here in the North Country, that tend to be more conservative, that feel that the governor and the state have been too restrictive. That based on the number of cases we've seen, there have been too many limits placed on people and businesses.
When we were in the phased-in approach to open back up, Tom, and I think everyone will agree, we didn't know what the heck was going on with this in March and April. Our schools were closed, most of our businesses were closed, non-essential businesses. And you saw it. I was doing a press conference probably every week trying to get another sector of businesses opened up. And if we can prove, and we have proven, that we can continue to do that in a safe manner and stay open, we should be able to do that.
The state is feeling the fallout from COVID, the loss of tax revenue, facing up to a $15 billion deficit for the fiscal year, without a bailout from the federal government. And right now there is none coming from Congress, although just this week things have certainly changed with the Democrats winning the 2 Senate seats, and now the Democrats will be controlling both the Senate and the House. But until that money arrives, if it arrives from the feds, how does the state cope with this? Where do you cut first, and how do you How do you realistically make up that kind of deficit?
You don't make up that kind of deficit without some serious federal stimulus package help. We need that. We need local and state aid. And I'm a lot more confident than I was last week answering this question. I think everybody has more confidence that we will be getting that. But in the meantime, we certainly need to look at the budget. We need to look at the process. Nobody wants to see cuts, but the governor's approach has been cuts across the board. Nobody wants to hear that, because whatever organization you have, or whatever it is, healthcare or education, nobody wants to see any cuts in that. But his approach is across the board, try to come up with some revenue raisers without raising taxes too much on people. And there's nothing off the table, really. But I am more confident in the past couple of days that there will be federal help for state and local government. I do think there are certain revenue raisers out there where we can make up on this that people are willing to pay. We talk about sports and online gambling. I get calls in my office, emails in my office all the time. The money's going to New Jersey, it's going here, it's going there. Let us do that. We want to do that in New York State. There's one. I have a UTV registration bill out right now that allows vehicles to be registered over 1,000 pounds. New York State is not allowing that. People want to pay this fee. Have you ever heard of a fee where people want to pay it? This is one of them. I know it's just a drop in the bucket, but certain things like this we should be looking at to make up for some of this deficit and make some revenue here.
Democrats have talked about almost immediately passing new taxes for the super rich.
Yes.
Do you support that?
I support a tactical approach in that. I don't support an overall. There's probably 25 bills out there right now, and I'm just to tax every little thing. Stock transfer, ultramillionaires, do that. I look at each bill in particular, and I say, you know what, we can do this incrementally and do this in a way that will not hurt our economy too much. So certainly some of those I would be in favor of, and a lot of them I wouldn't.
You mentioned online sports betting. That's one of the proposals the governor's already rolled out for his State of the State coming up next week. Also legalizing recreational marijuana, a third try at this now, the governor supporting that. In the past, you've been somewhat reluctant to that. Where are you on it this year?
Still very reluctant on it, Tom. I think we're not quite sure what the revenue behind it will be. I've always said we shouldn't do a full-out legalization of marijuana just for revenue. I'm very tight with the recovery community here locally. They are adamantly against this. Law enforcement community is adamantly against this because they don't have the tools to test on the road for road safety. There's a lot of issues with it. I'm very apprehensive about it. Decriminalizing, I voted in favor to decriminalize marijuana, small amounts of marijuana. I said I would do that. I did that. I still have a lot of apprehension towards full-out legalization in the state of New York getting in the business of distributing marijuana.
A lot of progressive Democrats support it, with the Democrats now having larger majorities in the Assembly and in the Senate. Do you think it's inevitable, though, that this year that's going to pass?
Yes, I believe it will pass this year.
The week before Christmas, the governor announced he planned to close 3 prisons by March, including the Annex at Clinton Correctional. You expressed outrage over the announcement, but realistically, is there anything you or the legislature can do to stop it?
Well, I'm working with DOC's officials. I'm working with local officials to see what we can do. First of all, to stop the closure of Clinton Annex. And, I think realistically, we can make a good case for it. We can make a good case to keep Clinton Annex. It's a central part of the hub here in the North Country.
If it is closed, would the majority of correction officers working there be reassigned?
DOCS has promised there will not be jobs lost, and we're going to hold them to that promise. With that being said, we're hoping most of those officers and civilians are absorbed either into Clinton, Maine, or into the hub here around the North Country.